10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Warning. Viewer-listener discretion is advised. The majority of the content of this program is not fact-checked. It is highly advised that it not be used for teaching your children from said content, other than making an example out of the hosts of what they should not grow up to be. Remember this. It's the beer talking.
Welcome to the truth about beer.
All the crap that
we're interested in. I'm Keith Davidson.
I'm Papa Joey Stay.
I'm Tim Rice.
Searching for
the truth.
Exploring
the unexplained.
Investigating the paranormal. Subscribe now.
Hit the alert button.
Hit the alert button so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to the truth
About beer.
and...
No, I don't. Talking to the 3 or 4 guys around here, no one knows what that is. Never heard about that.
But nobody's painting it at all?
Okay, Cactus 564, second.
There's nothing on the radar from the other centers at all on that particular area, that object that's up in the air?
It's up in the air?
Affirmative.
No, no one knows anything about it. What's the altitude about?
I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and it's relevant starts going counterclockwise, and the length is unbelievable.
Janet, 21.
Janet, go ahead.
Hey, know if there was anything like the tethered balloon or anything released that should be above high band?
No, we haven't heard nothing about it.
Okay. Guy at 39,000 says he sees something at 30,000 that the length is unbelievable and it has a strobe on it. This is not good.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's a UFO, so it's the Roswell crap again.
Where's it at now?
He says it's right in time, man.
It's right in time then. No, we haven't seen nothing like that.
Okay, keep your eyes open.
Foxtrot Kilo.
X564, we checked with Canada. They don't have any weather balloons or anything up tonight. Nobody up front knows any idea about that. Can you still see it?
Negative. That's where we initially spotted it. It was between the weather and us, and when there's lightning, you can see a dark object, and it was pretty eerie looking. There's a couple up to right here going east now. Maybe you'll see it.
Okay.
First time in 15 years I've ever seen anything like it.
Arcade 5 in the next about 2 to 3 minutes. Be looking off to your right side. If you see anything about 30,000 feet, one aircraft reported does something. It wasn't a weather balloon or anything. It was a long, white-looking thing with a strobe on it. Let me know if you see anything out there.
What did you see?
It said it was about 30,000.
What's the ranking?
Cactus 564, you still?
Affirmative 564.
Yeah, that was south of your position.
It was north.
Okay, Arcade 5, let's make it out the left window now.
Are you taking any traffic up on 1 right now?
I've got some passing off here at 9 o'clock and about 12 at 31 westbound. Good. Hey, you guys don't know anything about some kind of a weather balloon or UFO that's out in the
second.
Yeah, I didn't know if you happen to know of anything going on out there. No balloons in the area, no nothing reported.
Okay, where is this out again?
It's at, well, you know where it's in Tucumcari, New Mexico. It's about 150 miles to the east of Albuquerque.
Okay, how far from Holloman?
Holloman, it looks like it's off the 030 Holloman for about 220 miles.
Okay, I think. Okay, it's kind of hard for us to see here. Okay, 030 for about 200. We don't have anything going on
Yeah.
that I know of.
Yeah, I didn't know. We've tried everybody else. Nobody else is. This guy definitely saw it run all the way down the side of the airplane. So it was a pretty interesting thing out
Okay,
there.
it was at 30,000 feet.
30,000 feet.
It was like long.
Yeah, it's right out of the X Files. I mean, it's a definite UFO or something like that. But I mean,
And y'all are serious about this.
yeah, he's real serious about it too. And he looked at it, saw it. No balloons were reported tonight. Nothing in the
And it
area.
was strobing out the front, he said?
I think the strobe was off the tail end of it.
Okay, strobe tail.
He said it was kind of, well, it was dark, but he said there was lights in it.
How long did he think it was?
He said it was 300 to 400 foot long.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And we don't have any air carriers out here, so they're strobing along.
The only thing that I
Yeah, not that far to the north.
to
Yeah.
me, it would sound like an aerostat, but I don't think ours are that big, though.
Yeah, no, and they're more like this sounds like some sort of.
All right.
Episode
202. That's the truth about beer and
UFO
UFOs on airplanes.
101.
101.
or 1.1.
1.1, sorry.
1.1.
We're getting the 201, 101. We're all getting confused here.
Binary code. 1001001.100.
That sounds like binary.
That is binary.
Oh, okay.
We'll call it the binary episode.
The binary episode. I like that. That works.
1.0.1.0.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me.
Thanks
yeah.
for
Well,
coming.
thanks for being with us. It's not, well, like I said, this is our first episode on UFOs, but we have actually,
Alien beer.
even alien beer.
Alien
I
beer.
like that.
Love it.
So I found this in
Oh,
Bevmo for anybody who's interested. So little history on it is it was brewed for the 50th
trailer.
anniversary of Roswell.
How appropriate.
How appropriate. And the brewery, I believe, is in New Mexico. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Road trip.
Carrizozo? New Mexico?
I've been there. It's Carrierizo. If you Google it and ask them to tell you, but it tells you in different ways. But I know where that is. It's between Lincoln and Tucumcari, or just outside of Tucumcari, where this incident happened.
Oh, wow.
Even more appropriate.
Even more appropriate.
What the heck?
Right over Roswell.
Wow. So, well, you finished that?
That's kind of all. That's kind of all I had, other than it was appropriate for the episode. So
Yeah.
kind of works.
Yeah. This episode is no different than any other where it's not scripted. We just go with it.
Tended to find that out real fast.
That's okay. That's all right.
So we have Tim Rice with us tonight, and he was on one of the infamous. I've seen this on several different shows. Actually, what do you want to call it?
Encounter.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah. It was just incredible. It changed my life, and I've been a believer ever since. And I just don't know what to say about it. It's just like I wish people could understand. Sometimes I wish people knew what I knew, and other times it's like maybe they shouldn't know. But it's a very interesting story, and it's had me very, very, I'd say nervous, scared, apprehensive, confused over the last, what's it been, 30 years now? It's 1995. Yeah, May of 1995. So it's been a long time. But I've just so many things since then. about the story. And it's funny because the story that's out there is not the real story. I mean, there are parts to it that are true, but there's a lot of information out there that is not accurate, and that's fine with me. I don't. The captain on the flight, Eugene Tollison, he not recently, he went public with his story, and the first officer called me up. His name's John. He called me up and said, "Hey, George is going to go public with a story," and I'm like, "Oh man, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea." 2 weeks later, John called up and said, "He's dead. Eugene, he's dead." And I'm like, "What?" I had a heart attack in his home alone. So that pretty much shut me up right there about talking about it. But yeah, it's been 30 years. I don't think there's anything the Men in Black are really going to want me to not say. I mean, it's out there. If you've seen the America West Case 564 video on YouTube or any other episodes, it basically is the correct story with a few minor details, a few minor flaws, corrections, how you say. But the story that's told is very interesting, but the story that is real is a little more interesting. And
that's what we want to hear.
I haven't talked about it. I don't talk about it to a whole lot of people, but I figured it's been long enough, and just people need to know. I don't see my life in danger. My daughter was afraid that Men in Black would show up when we got here, but no, I don't think that happens. So I think we're cool.
Well, then why don't we go to the beginning?
All right.
Yeah.
I was a flight attendant for 27 years with America West Airlines, not just America West. I started with America West in 1984, and then I went to Vision and Falcon and Frontier, and I worked for a few companies. In May of 1995, we were doing a routine flight that we bid on. So we do Tampa to Las Vegas, and it leaves about at 10:30 at night in Tampa, and it arrives, I forget what time, in Las Vegas. But this particular night was just like any other night. We've done this many times. I was a first-class flight attendant. The people were pretty much asleep. The movie was over. It was a very, very dark cabin. Very few people, with reading lights on reading. Most everybody asleep. Everyone in first class is asleep. So I hang out in the cockpit quite a bit. You can't do that now, but back in the day, you could. You just go in there and sit down on the jump seat right behind the captain's chair, and you just sit there and watch them fly and listen to them talk to radio control, and you just, they're reading magazines, and it's just like hanging out. It's almost too simple. Flying an airplane, they don't do a lot while they're in the air flying from one place to the other. They just monitor,
right.
And everything was going along as normal. And we were headed west, and we had just passed a thunderstorm out of the panhandle of Texas. Big lightning storm. It was huge. And just as we got through the panhandle and into New Mexico, you could look back and see the clouds and the lightning, and it was pretty cool. So I'm sitting in the jump seat, waiting for time to go by because it's pretty boring up there. Eugene Tollison, the captain, he was doing the position report, making sure all the paperwork was right, and we were at checkpoints. John Waller, first officer, it was not his leg. It was a captain's leg on this flight. They switch off when they fly. It's like, this is your leg, the next one's my leg, the next one's your leg. So this leg, John was just, hanging out, and he was looking at a Baja motorcycle magazine or something. He likes to go down and race. I don't know if it's the Bajas or the motorcycles. He races one of them down there. So he's looking at a motorcycle, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden at about 2:00 position, looking, right out front of the aircraft, there was a large, bright light, huge, bright light. And I'm like, wow, what was that? And then to the right of it, another bright light. So it went boom, boom. But when the bright light went off, there was a small, tiny light that ran from one light to the other. So it went boom, boom. So it lit, ran across to the other one, and lit. So it looked really weird. And so I said, John. And he said, what? I said, what is that? And I pointed right out at 2:00. And he sat up. He put his headsets on, and he contacted Albuquerque Center. And that's when, man, my life changed. It started off as two flashing lights with a beam in between. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, dude, what is that? And he says, I don't know. So he called Albuquerque Center, and he said, and I think I can remember most of this. He said, Albuquerque Center 564, do you have anything north of our position on radar? And it was his call sign was Papa or something. And he says, no, we have nothing on radar up near where you're at. Why? And John says, well, we're looking at an object up here, and it's got two bright strobes on it, and it's going from left to right. And the length is unbelievable. And so he, Papa called back and said, no, we have nothing. What's the altitude on it? He says, I don't know. It's around 30,000 feet. And the length is unbelievable. It's very eerie looking. And so Albuquerque said, no, we have nothing. And he said, we'll keep our eyes open. So on 757, you can actually walk behind the pilot seats. It's not like this at 37 where it's like up against the circuit board. You can actually move around. And so I went behind John's seat and watched this thing go from 2:00 to 3:00 within just a split second. And so Eugene looked at me, I looked at John. We're like, what was that? And I mean, the hair on my arm stood up. We were shocked. We were terrified. I mean, it was scary, is because, I mean, these guys have been flying thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. They've seen meteors. They've seen space shuttles come back. I've seen the space shuttle reentry. We've seen many things up there and I've seen almost fire up near Iceland, Keflavik, and up in Alaska. I've seen all of that. I've experienced almost everything you can experience in the air. Meteor showers, I can't remember all of them. I used to go watch them all the time, but there's myriads. There's all these different meteor showers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I've seen those up in the air too. And I've also flown on the 4th of July where we left Florida at 10:00, and then we got to see fireworks in every state until we got to Las Vegas, because fireworks went off at like 11:00 or 10:00 in every single time zone. So every single time zone, you could just look out, and the fireworks were amazing. Just
that would be cool.
So amazing. Yeah. The first time, I mean, I was all mad because I had to work on the 4th of July, but then I saw all of these fireworks shows.
And you got the best show of all.
We went over Louisiana, then we went over Dallas, then we went over I think Lubbock or Amarillo, Texas, then we went over Roswell, maybe El Paso, and every time zone, all you could see out your window is just a ton of fireworks going off, and it was so incredible.
That'd be cool to see.
So yeah, I mean, we've seen everything. This nobody had seen before. I hadn't seen it. John hadn't seen it. So I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And when it went to our 3:00 position, I was looking right out the window. Well, Eugene got up out of his seat, and he came over right by me. So we were both standing right behind John, and John was monitoring the radio and still on the radio. This object took a dive to about our 5:00 position and went maybe 10,000 feet lower within just a second. And when it did, it was right in between that cell of thunderstorms and us. So now the thunderstorms, when it was lightning, we could see the object.
Oh, wow.
And so it backlit it so that we could actually see it was a long cigar, cylindrical. It's 300 to 400 feet long. It looked like, all right, the nuclear submarines?
Mm-hmm.
All right, imagine a nuclear submarine without the middle
right just
thing on it.
Long.
It was stealthy, black looking and everything, but these lights were still going boom, shh, boom. And so it appeared to us, and when the lightning lit up, we saw the actual ship. And it got a little bit crazy up there for a minute because Eugene went back over and sat down in a seat, and he reached up to turn off the autopilot. He was going to actually turn toward this object. And John's like, dude, what are you doing? No, he actually flipped it off, I think. And then John's looking over at him, and it became very hostile there for a minute. Eugene's like, I want to know, we got to know what that is. And John's like, no, we can't deviate. There's no way we can deviate because, God, if we were to deviate, that would have, called up the military and everything. Everything would have been crazy. Yeah. But that's how shocking it was. It was so shocking that he actually wanted to take control of the aircraft and follow this thing because it was unbelievable. So we watched it for a few more seconds after the lighting, and all of a sudden it went boom, it disappeared, and it shot right into the cell of thunderstorms. Way down in there. It just went right toward the cell and disappeared. What in the world? Nowadays, I have my own theories about what that was, why that was, but we called Albuquerque Control again and told them. So a whole story was going on in the background while this was going on. I guess Albuquerque Center called a NORAD, or they called Cannon Air Force Base. And you can see all of this on that all of the Freedom of Information Act that Walter White obtained. You can hear the transmissions of this whole thing. And it was crazy. And I guess NORAD had called back and they said they did have something on radar up where that position was. And they said it was a search only, which means it wasn't transponding, which means all aircrafts have to transpond, put out a number, but it was called a search only. That means it wasn't transponding. It was up about 30,000 feet. And from the time that we noticed it to the time that Cannon actually got something, we recorded our latitude, longitude, and Zulu time. Cannon came back and recorded the time that they saw it. Well, at the time we saw it, 3 minutes later, when Cannon saw it, it was already 120 miles northeast, and it was search only. And that means it would have had to have been flying at about 1,800 knots to get to that area at that time.
Wow.
So we tried to calm ourselves down and maintain the flight and got the rest of the flight done. And the rest of the flight, I'm just sitting here going, what did I just see? Well, it just made me question God and everything. I mean, it was amazing and totally amazing. And I know we weren't hallucinating. It wasn't just one of us that saw it. We all three saw it. And we sat down and we drew a picture of what we all agreed on that we saw. That picture has never been published. The pictures you'll see on the story itself, like if you Google it or something, the image they have on there is cute. It's cute.
So it wasn't cute, huh?
It wasn't accurate. It was cute. It was for the information they had. I guess that's all they could come up with. And I mean, but it was it was life-changing. And what I saw was about the equivalent of a mall floating still at 30,000 feet. I mean, I don't know if you can even imagine that.
No, I couldn't.
It just, and for years, I mean, it's been a long time, and I still just can't believe it. But so that pretty much changed my life. I went home and I spoke with my parents. My dad, he's a theologian. He knows about the Bible. And I said, is there anywhere in the Bible that confirms or denies the existence of other life? And he said, why? And I said, because I saw something that was not from this world and I really need to know. And he said, well, yeah, the Bible speaks of many things, Noah, Moses, Ezekiel. And he told me about Ezekiel 1, which stood out more than the rest, more than most. And Ezekiel, all right, so in the Strong's dictionary, in the Hebrew dictionary, the Strong's coordinates, they translate Greek and Hebrew from Hebrew and Greek into English. And this is complicated because sometimes one word in Hebrew would take like 7 to 10 words in English to
translate
it.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research on it, and I said, I have to know, where in the Bible does it say? So he said, you need to read Ezekiel 1. I started reading Ezekiel 1, and I'm like, boom, there it is. That's it. You're never going to go to church. No preacher's ever going to sit down and say, all right, folks, we'd like to open up to Ezekiel 1. It will never happen. It's controversial. It's hard to believe. And that right there was kind of confirmation that, well, yeah, the Bible talks about it. And so I changed my feeling of thinking I was crazy to, wow, maybe I've just seen something that really exists and this is real. And so the whole night home that night, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I kept looking up at the sky and I'm like, dude, they saw me. They saw me. If I saw them, they know. They know I saw them.
Right.
If I saw them, right? I mean, they know. This is a technology that is far surpasses anything we've ever experienced. So I kept thinking they were looking at me, and I'm like, are they going to get rid of me, or did I see too much?
Right.
Or are they going to contact me? I mean, they wouldn't let me see him had there not been a reason or they just don't let people see them unless there's a reason. I believe that, because most encounters that people have, some of them are mistakenly seen. I saw this light and it was hovering, the ship came down. I don't know if the aliens actually knew that those people were actually witnessing them. I have to believe they do, because the intelligence is just so incredible. All right. So the flight went on, and we were about an hour out of Las Vegas. And so we continued the flight just as normal. I was walking up and down the aisles. I didn't even tell the rest of the crew members in the back. What do you do? You go back and say, hey guys, how's the flight? Good. Oh, we just saw a UFO.
So none of the passengers saw
No,
anything,
everyone was asleep. Nobody saw anything.
Yeah.
I think mainly because it appeared, or nobody said anything.
Right.
I think mainly because it appeared right in front of us, and then it went straight down and then into that cell. And man, it's a 757. There's a lot of people in there, and they're all out. They're asleep. I doubt anybody was watching out the window. If somebody had said, wow, did you see those lights out there? I would have known.
Right.
But as far as I know, that never happened. And the other crew members sitting in the back galley, they were completely unaware of it. And it was so incredible that it wasn't even worth explaining it to them. What's the point?
Right.
Hey, we saw a UFO. Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, it was this and this. And they're like, oh, cool. All right. That's about what they would have said. All right. Are we doing a beverage service before landing? Yeah. I'm like, no, really, I saw a UFO. I didn't want to even go there because I was still freaked out, man. I was nervous. I was shaking. My life had changed. My whole life had changed. And I kept thinking, God, what just happened? What did you let me witness, and why? Why would God let me see something like that?
Right.
If there wasn't a reason for it. And it just blew my mind. So we arrived into Las Vegas. Now I'm going to tell the story, and I'm going to leave out just a couple of things because I don't feel comfortable talking about it. As far as who met us at the gate and everything, I'll tell you what happened, but I cannot I cannot guarantee you that the people we came in contact with on the ground were the people that they said they were. All right. So I'll just tell you what happened. So we landed in Las Vegas. I was a first flight attendant. So we pull up to the jetway. We're coming in, and I looked out the window of the jetway, see somebody was there, first of all, there to operate the gate. And there was a gate agent, there was a supervisor, and there were 3 men in suits. I wouldn't say men in black. They were just in suits. I wasn't even thinking like that. They were just in suits. I'm like, wow, that's really, really freaking weird. So I picked up the phone. I said, hey, Eugene, you see this? And he goes, yeah, just get an ID before you let him in. I'm like, yes, sir. So we open up the door. I start saying goodbye to everybody. And they're just standing out there. Well, as soon as there was like a very, very short lull, like one guy was getting his bag and it took him along, one of the gentlemen stepped inside and he goes, may I speak to the captain? And I said, yeah, can I have your ID, please? And so I took his ID and he stepped back and I said, I'll be right back. So I went into the cockpit. I'm like, they want to speak to you. And he's like, did you get ID? I said, yes, sir, here it is. And he opened it up and he looked at it. He looked at it. He looked at it. And then he gave it back to me. Now, I saw the ID, but I didn't see what was on it. You know how FBI has the background is FBI.
Right.
I know that. And FAA is a big background, says FAA. And so for 20 years of the airlines, I've seen FAA, I've seen, LEOs, law enforcement officers that carry, our secret guys that sit on the airplane. I've seen many, many security LEOs. I was a bounty hunter, so I've had many guards on board with they've gone to fly them to get them. They handcuff them. There's a system for that. I've seen just about every ID you can imagine. When this guy handed me his ID, I kind of like looked at it, but I didn't notice any features that stood out that had like a star or a badge or anything. It just looked very official. Mm-hmm. And I said for years it was the FBI, but I don't think I really know. I mean, I never found out. We never found out. I never found out who they were, but I told my friends, I said, the FBI met us at the gate, but I think about it today. I don't know who they were, but it just, the ID looked so regularly official. Yeah. That I assume that if a supervisor with the airline is standing there with them, it's got to be legit. Mm-hmm. So I gave the ID to the captain. The captain looked at it and verified the credentials, and he said, all right, let him in. So I handed my ID back. The gentleman walked in. He went to the cockpit, and he shut the door. So there were 2 other gentlemen standing in the jetway, and they were just standing there. I was trying to not to make eye contact with them, and I was telling people goodbye, have a great stay in Vegas. Thanks for flying with us. All the bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Mm-hmm. And, there would be little breaks where people were like, they got their bag stuck or something. So there'd be like little breaks. And so when the first class emptied out, I guess the main cabin, there was a hold up or something and there was a break. So I stepped into the jetway and I'm like, hey, how you guys doing? He was like, fine. I'm like, everything all right? And he goes, yeah, we're just doing routine checks. I'm like, routine checks. Okay. So I went back in, I said goodbye. And all of a sudden the cockpit door opens. See, I don't even know if I should be telling this. All right. The cockpit door opens and the agent, I don't know what he was, the guy in the suit with the ID, he came out and walked back out into the jetway. And those 3 kind of like took 3 steps back and went and started having a conversation. So I look back behind me. Now, this is a flight where we leave Vegas, we leave Tampa, we get into Las Vegas. And after we get into Las Vegas, we call what we call deadhead home. So we're not working. We're just going to another gate, getting on a flight to Phoenix because that's where we live. So we're just riding. Another crew is flying. Our day's done. We're deadheading back to Phoenix. So the guys came out with their bags And Eugene came out first. He didn't make eye contact with me. I'm like, well, then John came out. And so if you can picture the cockpit right there in the galley area, when the pilot was coming up, nobody else could see him looking at me, like if they were out in the jetway. So John looks up at me and he gives me this little finger gesture, like, shh. And then he says, you didn't see nothing. I said, okay. He goes, we'll see you at the other gate. And so they left. And so we finished cleaning the airplane, got all of our baggage and everything, got it all together. And we eventually got over to the other gate. We boarded the flight. I went down and sat down with the rest of the crew member. There were 3 of us. There were 4 crew members, including me. So we went to our areas, and when you're deadheading on a flight, they seat us in the emergency exit rows, because we're ABAs, able-bodied assistants in case of emergency. It's good to have somebody there that is experienced and trained, knows how to open doors, and stuff like that. So they always put the crew members in that row. So I sat at the window on the row, and then we waited, and the captain came on and says, well, folks, we're just waiting on a few bags and some last minute paperwork, and the weather in Phoenix is blah, blah, blah. And our flying time is about 42 minutes. So we're going to be on time. And he needs to back for like some avoided flight. So we waited. It was 45 minutes. And then the guys walked on the airplane, and they came all the way back to overwing. And they put their bags away and they sat down, and John sat on the aisle, and the middle seat was open. I'm like, dude, what's going on? He goes, shh. I'm like, don't shh me. What the hell's going on? He's like, dude, don't talk to me here. And I'm like, dude, there's nobody here. And he goes, I'm not talking to you till we get home and in the employee parking lot. I'm like, dude, what the hell? He goes, shh, I'm not talking about it. So I'm sitting here going, what the heck is going on? So we have to do this 42-minute flight to Phoenix. And the whole time I'm looking over, giving him dirty looks. And he's just shaking his head saying, nope. So we get to the airport. We walk through the terminal. We get on the employee bus, and I sat right across from him, and I looked over at him, and he won't make eye contact with me. And then he finally made eye contact with me, and I started to say something, and he's like, nope. He shook his head. Nope. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So then we get off the bus, and it's a huge parking lot. And so he goes, where are you parked? I said, I don't know. I'm over there. And he goes, come with me. So I got off at the stop he got. We walked over to his car, and he's sitting there looking around everywhere. He's just like, I'm like, dude, you're freaking me out. What's going on? Right. And so he got to his car. He put his bag in his car, and he's still looking around. He said, we didn't see anything. We are not to report anything. This never happened. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What happened? He goes, I don't want to talk about it. He goes, we'll make a date this week and get together and talk about it, but I don't want to. I can't talk about it. They told me I would actually never fly again. I'd lose my license. I'm like, oh my God, what the heck happened? So, I mean, I'm already freaked out. So the ride home, I told you, I was like looking up at the sky going, what did we see? Are they following me? And I was just, there's no way to explain it. It's a cross between denial and shock. And I thought I was crazy. I mean, I thought I'd lost my freaking mind. I'm like, I'm going to wake up in a minute and this whole thing never happened. It's got to be a dream, because nothing made sense. Nothing at all. And so I went home, asked my dad, are there such thing as, other life? And he gave me the Ezekiel and the Noah and everything. And I'm like, he goes, you just got to come to that on your own. So time went by, and I tried to contact John, and he would not answer my phone calls. And then I can't remember. See, this was in May. All right. On June 28th or right around the end of June, John calls me. I'm like, hey man, what's up? He goes, hey, they don't know it was you in the cockpit. It just on the whole thing, it says the flight attendant was the first one to notice. But my name never got mentioned, so nobody ever knew my name. And he said, that's a good idea. Let's keep it that way. So he said, mate, this guy called me from Washington. His name's Walter Webb. And you can look this up. This guy is completely MIA right now. Nobody knows where he is. There's not even a picture. If you Google Walter Webb, it just shows like a cutout of a man, and it's like unknown. And it tells a little about what he did. And I can't remember all the things about him, but he was a paranormal or a UFO investigator. But evidently, he just disappeared. Well, this gentleman, this Walter Webb, called John Waller and said, hey, I'd like to have you guys come down and do an interview about your sighting. And John's like, oh, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. He goes, you know what? He goes, let me talk to some of the crew members and see what they think. So John called me up and said, hey, man, they don't know your name. You want to talk to this guy? You want to go down and do an interview? I'm like, well, all right, I'll talk to him. So I called him, and when he found out who I was and everything about it, he said, can I get you on a flight down here tonight? Red Eye to Washington? Yeah. I'm like, no, I don't think so. No, I don't know. I didn't know who he was. And I just got this weird feeling like, I ain't going there.
Right.
So I turned him down, but he emailed me a little form, and he wanted me to draw pictures and kind of like write down my experience and everything like that. So I got it all prepared and went to contact him to get where I was supposed to send this information. And he's gone. And nobody knows where he's at. If you know where he's at, if anybody knows where he's at, please contact me. I would love to talk to Walter Webb. It's just amazing. This guy was very, I'd say, volatile. He was a conspiracy theorist. He was, I guess he at one point had a job up in high government, and he went vogue or whatever, but he's gone. So we didn't talk about it anymore after that. Now, years went by, and I've been to MUFON events. I've been to UFO events. I tried to go to Alien Con, and I contacted Stanton Friedman. I went on a radio show, a paranormal radio show with Erskine in Phoenix back in, I can't remember, in the 90s. And I did a radio show, and then Linda Moulton Howe, she's an distinguished, she's a great UFO investigator. She does a lot of the cattle mutilization, and she does a lot of interviews with abductees. And so she happened to call in on the show that night while I was on with Erskine. And Erskine says, all right, well, we have Linda Howe on the phone. All right, Linda, do you have any questions for our guest? And she got on the phone and started just like tearing my story apart. How did you know it was FBI? I said, I never said it was FBI. Well, how do you know they were even law enforcement? I said, I didn't say that. I don't know who they were. She goes, well, how do you know they weren't just regular airline people? I said, because I work for the airline. I've worked as a gate agent. I worked as a supervisor. I've ran the whole zones there, boarding people. I did reservations. I did gates. I did ticket counter. I did baggage service. I did everything you could do in the airline, because back then America West was cross-utilized. We all did everything.
Right.
So I'm like, Linda, listen. I wish to God that had happened before. But she kind of like picked my story apart, and she goes, well, how do you know what the altitude was? If you're looking out of an airplane, how would you know what the altitude is? She goes, you're not a pilot, right? I said, no, I'm not a pilot. She goes, well, how do you know what the altitude was if you're not a pilot? And so she started getting me all flustered on the radio, and we went to a break, and I said, Erskine, come on, man. I didn't come over here to be like criticized and ridiculed, badgered. Like, who is this lady? He goes, well, she's pretty popular in the paranormal and UFO field, and she's qualified to ask questions. And I said, well, why is she trying to pick my story apart? He goes, I don't think she is. I think she's just trying to get answers that she knows how to ask. There are certain questions that paranormal investigators can ask that can weed out somebody right away if they're like making this up, if they're not real. So I think she was testing me, and I didn't like it. It made me a little upset. And so we continued on with the program, and then he said, all right, Linda, thanks for calling. And then we took other callers and had other guests. But most everybody I talked to was like, wow, man, that's, people had great questions. So years later, this I'd have to check. I can get back to you on this, let you know the exact time when Eugene Tollison died. But John called me up and said, hey, man, Eugene's going to go forward with the story. Now, I don't know if you know Jim Delatoso. He's a CGI or animating recreation. He does all the recreations on like when people have stories of UFOs come down. He's the graphics guy.
Okay.
That makes it look like what happened. He's a digital video production. His name's Jim Delatoso. Good guy. So I went and met with him, and he said, all right, what we want to try to do is get an idea of what this thing looked like. And so I sat down with him, and we went over, drawings and sketches and things, and he was designing it on the computer as we were speaking. And we got a pretty darn good image of what I saw. I mean, it wasn't exactly, but I don't think I could get exactly what I saw. But he came up with a really, really good version of the ship that we saw. And I met with him, and then I thought about going hard copy. Hard copy wanted to interview me. A&E wanted to interview me. What were the ones back then? Sightings? No, it wasn't Sightings. I can't remember what it was back then. The shows back then in the news.
Mm-hmm. Surprised Ripley's didn't come after you.
It could have been. Well, I started getting contact from all these reality shows, and they said, we'll pay you. We want to do your story, and we want to sell your story, and blah, blah. And I'm like, I was really skeptical. And so John calls me up and says, Eugene's gone public with a story. I'm like, crap. I wanted to make that money,
Right, yeah, exactly.
If anyone made it, I wanted to. Because we've been holding this back, biting our tongues, and it's so hard. And so when finally, it's time to come forward, I wanted to put my 2 cents in worth. And because John, I don't know if John really knows all the stuff that I know, because I researched it long after it happened. And ever since then, I don't know that John ever went to a MUFON or I could say Eugene. I don't know if he went to a MUFON convention. I don't know if he ever Googled or heard the transcripts. Walter Webb obtained the Freedom of Information Act, and he got the entire transcript of our communication with NORAD, Canon, Albuquerque Center, everything. He got it all, and I listened to that over and over and over. And I don't think Eugene ever even heard it. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure if he had, they would have told me. John won't have anything to do with it. He says he never wants to hear it again. 2 weeks later, John calls me up and said Eugene died. And I'm like, what? What do you mean he died? Because he died of a heart attack and he's home alone. I'm like, John, you know what this means? He goes, yeah, we can't say another word about this. I'm like, it really, really, really freaked me out. I'm not so sure if someone walked up and offered me, $50,000 for the story. I'm not so sure I'd do it. I mean, I don't mind telling my story, like locally and with friends and on a low level, but this is something I would never contact like a big corporation for, because I would feel a little intimidated. My daughter asked me on the way here today, Dad, what happens when you talk about this? Is Men in Black going to show up? I'm like, no. And she's like, Dad, you shouldn't talk about this. Because George was what? Eugene, he was 50. I don't know why we called him George. Eugene Tollison. He was 57, 53 or 57, 57. And that's way too early to die. And everybody knew him. And, they had a big memorial for him at the airline and everything. But John and I are the only ones that know. I mean, the only ones. I don't know that Eugene told anybody else about his encounter. John certainly won't tell anybody about his encounter. At the end of in October of 95, I quit AmeriQuest Airlines and I went to another airline. But John said, since you don't work for the company anymore, they can't do anything to you. I'm like, well, yeah, the company can. I don't think the companies went in and took Eugene out.
Right.
But I mean, how safe are we talking about this? And so if you look at these episodes, they say it's one of the most credible aviation incidents in history. It's not only because they got the transmissions, but they got it confirmed by NORAD and Canon. And there was an SB-117 up there flying away as Nighthawk. And they said, Hawk 129, you can hear it on the transmission. He goes, yeah, we have a pilot reporting something not in your position. Keep your eyes open. And the guy says, yeah, I have something going off my left wing now. Well, he saw it. So it was not only confirmed by military,
right?
It was confirmed by Albuquerque traffic control. It was confirmed by Canon, and it was confirmed by NORAD. Now, they've all written things denying this ever existed. But if you listen to the transcripts, you can hear them talking to NORAD and talking to Canon. We got, I don't know what it is. You guys are crazy. It's that UFO stuff again. That's that Roswell stuff. And he goes, yeah, straight out of the X-Files. And they're laughing and, cutting up about it. But when she calls back and she goes, were you the guys calling us up here about that object? And we're like, yeah, that was us. She goes, well, we're tracking something where that was. And it was where it was and how they tracked it. It was not normal, and they didn't know what it was, and it was a search only. So it was identified by ground. It was identified by NORAD. It was identified by Canon. And so that right there pretty much confirms the sighting more than most other aviation sightings. I mean, they have I think the Japan incident, the China incident, and the Russian, and there's several aviation sightings that they have information, but they don't have this information.
Right.
They don't have confirmation of radar and positioning and speeds. They don't have that. These guys did. And it blew them away, and they couldn't believe it. And so I don't think it's ever happened before. If it has happened, then nobody's reported it. But yeah, it changed my life. And yeah, I couldn't fly anymore. At the end of that year, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't fly anymore. It affected me so bad. I couldn't be up in an airplane knowing that there's that out there.
Right.
It just freaked me out.
So what year did this story go public then? When was it first broken to the public?
It's on the YouTube channel. The date's on there. I'm not quite sure of that date. That was the release date. And there's an article, there's several articles. If you Google AmeriQuest case 564, there's several articles. Most of the videos have been taken down since Eugene died. And I'm not sure why that is. I have a page called Alien Stories. I'm sorry. It's called Alien Stories. It's my own personal Facebook page. It's a little page I made about, and I invite everyone in the world to send in their stories about things they've seen. And I put my information from those Google searches. I linked them all on that website. Since then, many of them are not available anymore. I'm not sure why that is, but I happen to have a copy that is saved, and I can share that, even though sometimes if you pull it up now, it may not be on there. But I sent it to you. Mm-hmm. And so that's like one of the versions that can't be deleted, but they've deleted a lot of them, and they've deleted a lot of the story, but there's several stories out there on it. But it was years later. I mean, I was quiet for years. I didn't say anything about it for a long time. And then when I found out, I saw that video, and they went, can't remember, Stranger Things, or I can't remember the name of the company that put out this video, but they, through the Freedom of Information Act, they've got the recordings, and they put together a little animated version of what they thought by listening to it, and it was cute. It wasn't as accurate, but I understand that they really don't have any firsthand knowledge.
Right.
I guess me and Eugene and John were the only firsthand knowledge, and they won't talk about it, and I haven't talked about it.
Well, how much time had passed from the incident until Eugene's demise?
Eugene just passed away like a year or two ago, so he sat on it for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And then John said he's going public. And I'm like, oh, man, that's not a good idea. And then 2 weeks later, he died. I can find that information out for you. But
so we're talking years. This wasn't just.
Oh, yeah.
This
is like a couple of years ago that Eugene decided to sell the story, and he's gone.
Wow.
So I'm not sharing my story with like any big, I'm not selling the story. I'm not sharing it with like hard copy and A&E and all those big. I go on Ancient Aliens or some of those shows like that.
Well, how many times have you shared your story
publicly?
Yeah,
twice. Once would have been the MUFON meeting over at Papago at the National Guard, and that didn't go well. I told you about that earlier. I told the story, and then I had so many people approach me after I talked about it, and it just kind of like scared me more than anything. People came out of the woodwork, and I wouldn't say they were all crazy. I know a lot of them are very, very interested investigators, paranormal investigators, and I would be happy to sit down and speak to them. But there were a lot of people that just wanted to touch me, that wanted the energy from the UFO to release from my body to their body. There were people that felt that if they touched me, they would be healed. There were people that thought if they touched me, that would finish their mission on this earth and they were done. I mean, it was very, very weird. So Erskine, he approached me after that night and asked if I'd be on his radio show. And that's when I went on with Linda Moulton Howe. So that's only 2 times I've ever shared this story with more than one person. It's been very scary to talk about.
Well, it seems lately though that, a lot more stories are coming to light that they kind of relax that.
And that's what my wife
tight
said.
Hold. So
my wife said, honey, it's been 30 years. There's much bigger things that have happened since that incident. I'm like, you're right. So I'm not uncomfortable talking about it anymore. I wished it's very, very complicated, man. It's like, in a way, I want some people to know. In a way, other people just don't need to know this because some people are not ready for this information.
And do you think that's why the government has always tried to keep a lid on it, because the public's not ready for information like this?
Exactly. They have. You don't hear too many aviation reporting. Now you see the military, they got the little tic tac and they got F-15 fighters coming forward. And so I don't think my story is that much in danger of letting the cat out of the bag, or I don't think I'm going to be exposed to any kind of, repercussions by telling it now.
Right.
Because of, like you said, so many things that have happened since then that are so much bigger and so much more credible and so much more, documented, and they have video evidence, and they have F-18 pilots that are coming out and breaking their silence. So I'm not so scared to talk about it anymore.
Well, that in the last, 10 years, probably they've done a lot of declassification of a lot of the files.
Yes.
And
Russia released a lot of their information, and different countries are doing that. So it's forced. I guess they had to sit down with the government, and they've tried to get the government to confess and come forward, and they've had many, many meetings about this in Congress. But I think what the agenda is the government knows. They know what's going on. I do believe it's being controlled all by the Navy, and I have my reasons that I believe that. I believe that they have tried to soften us up and get us ready for the landing on the White House lawn. 10 years, 20 years ago, if you said an alien came out and shook the hand of the president, nobody would have believed that. You look around now and you ask that question, and people are like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I don't. I bet that could happen."
Yeah.
So they've gotten us really, really used to it, so that by the time we do actually expose it and announce it, that there's not going to be a shock like there was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you would have told that to people, and it would have caused chaos.
Well, you'd be in a straitjacket in a padded room if you said something, if you saw a UFO or something like that. I mean, same thing we talked about with the paranormal is the same way.
Yeah. But if the public knew, if it was given to the public, we would lose control of government as we know it. We would lose control of like police officers. I mean, who's in charge?
Right.
You know? I don't have to listen to you. My God, we got aliens.
Right.
They're kind of a little more important than you are. How can you tell me what to do when there's a much bigger power out there? And so it would have caused a lot of chaos. It would have caused a religious chaos. You know, people would start questioning their religion and all of that. And then the government would say, wait a minute, man, who's running the show here? I think it would have been very, very just catastrophic had they found out. Now today, I think, you tell my daughter, hey, UFO landed near the Pentagon yesterday, and they've made contact with them, and my daughter would say, oh, cool, really? How many were there?
Right.
What color was the ship, and how long did they stay? So nobody really cared. Nobody would be surprised.
They don't react like
no.
And like you said, I think, not only Hollywood, but we as a society have done a good job of desensitizing us to it.
Well, that was government's, the government in Hollywood got together, specifically Steven Spielberg, when they made E.T.
or Independence Day,
Close Encounters.
Oh, Close Encounters, that's right.
All right. So the government said, look, we got to do something to desensitize the public. And it's so desensitized now that we have Men in Black 1, Men in Black 2. And I mean, now it's just funny.
Yeah.
Nobody's scared now.
Yeah.
But look at Orson Welles, what he did. Remember that?
Scared the hell out of the world on a radio show.
Scared the entire world. So the government's tried to keep this, a lid on it to keep from causing a panic or a whatever. But today, I really don't think it would happen.
Yeah.
I think most people would say, oh, wow. Yeah, I knew it. It was just a matter of time before they revealed themselves. I don't think people would be as shocked as they are. So I think that's one of the reasons they tried to keep this so quiet so long ago, because now I'm seeing stuff on there that just blow my story away. I mean, not, you know what I'm saying? It's like F-18 pilots coming forward and saying, we don't know what this is.
Right.
And, and if they can come forward now, I think we're a little more desensitized, because if a pilot can come on the radio and say, yeah, I chased a UFO, it's not on the news. I didn't see that on the news today, but it happened. So I think it's so desensitized now that people pretty much expect it.
I think the other thing too is 30 years ago, we didn't have the technology we have today. So I think you almost have to do it because technology is getting so advanced now.
We didn't have the radar we have today.
Right.
Yeah, nothing.
But even cell phones, more people are capturing pictures on their cell phones. And
why is our technology so much more advanced today?
All right. All right. That's a whole different story. You want to hear that? I can.
How did I know that was coming up?
I can give you an opinion through confirmation. Okay. All right. So being a flight attendant, you fly all day and you get down to the hotel and everyone's like, all right, they go to the room, they grab a bucket of ice and they go and they change and they hit the bar downstairs.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, everybody does it as long as you have time, as long as you're legal. It's 8 hours bottled throttle. I think America West is 14 hours, but yeah, we go down and have a beer. And there are a lot of ex-military pilots.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of ex-military pilots with very, very high security clearances. There's a lot of ex-pilots with security clearances that talk a lot when they've had a few beers.
Had a few beers.
And so I can't chalk it up to all of it. I believe it, but there have been some very, very intense conversations where they told me things I know they wouldn't have told me, because I've had them come up the next day and say, dude, you know what? All that stuff we talked about, you didn't hear it from me. You can't repeat any of that. I'm like, all right. But the stuff they've told me is just downright horrifying. I mean, it's crazy. It's just, I mean, these guys would have lost their, I mean, if they were top security clearance holders working in Air Force bases, working on special projects, working in bases where we have alien technology in-house, and we're holding it, we're capturing it, we've reverse engineered it. And I can just say this, I can get you to maybe believe that this is all happening if you would just look at it like this. All right, let's say 10,000 years ago, you start a little time chart, 10,000 years ago, and then you have 2020 right here. Okay, that's a big time chart, right? Okay, since the beginning of time, whenever that is, some people say 200,000. I see things they found like a computer or a hammer they've dated back to 1 million years or whatever. You know, nobody knows. All right, but let's just for example, let's just say the starting time of civilization and life as we know it on this earth. You take that timeline, and then you take the 2020 timeline. Now you look, that's a big timeline, right?
Right.
Now, out of all of that time up until 1947, guess what we had? We had a wheel. We had fire. We had a light bulb. And I think we had a telephone. Right?
Yep.
Did we have a TV yet? I don't know if we had it. It was right. It was right there. It was right there.
Early 50s.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So from 0000 BC until 1947, how is it man only came up with a wheel, fire, and telephone and a light bulb? That's it. That's all we had. I mean, everybody knows that, right? That's not news, right?
Right.
Do you agree with me?
I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, we were basically Stone Age compared to what we're now.
Yeah.
So when this UFO crashed in Roswell, what they did is, I know the story on the Roswell crash. I guess we can get into that another time. There were survivors. One of them did survive for a while. She eventually passed on. But in the process, we contacted her race. There are many different species of aliens. There's like 156 that we know of, and I'm sure there's more. But we contacted her system, her people, and they tried to rescue mission to come back and take her. Her name was Cece, and they tried to come back and take her and save her. This is how we became allies. You want to get into this?
Oh, you already started.
Yeah.
All right, we'll make this
No
quick.
turning back
All right,
now.
so 1947. Now we have a microwave. Just shortly after 1947, we have a microwave. We have transistors. We have circuitry. We have fiber optics. We have nanotechnology. My God, what is that? We have everything, and we had none of this prior to 1947. Nothing. There was no such thing as a fiber optic or a night vision goggles, lasers, circuitry, transistors. You know, my dad was telling me back when he was a little kid, he had a transistor radio, and it had like 5 transistors or something like that in it. And the transistors were that's what made the radio so big.
Right.
And now,
Well, then you needed vacuum tubes to power it.
Yeah. But so now, how did all of a sudden we just wake up one day and decide, oh, you know what? Today I think I'm going to create fiber optic or lasers or night vision. I can tell you real quick how the night vision, and they're very proud of this. Military is they reverse engineered a lot of the things on the ship that they got. And we were also given a lot of information from the beings that came to help Cece. And this is very, very cool. I heard this straight from a guy that had firsthand knowledge of how they develop night vision. It was re-engineered and developed off of this retina of one of the alien beings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They tore the eye apart and figured it out, and now we can see at night. And that's why their eyes are so big, because they don't require a whole lot of light to see. You know how the bigger the eye, and so it actually a very, very bright light, which is weird, is almost blinding to them. Yet they can step out of a spaceship that's the light's brighter than we can imagine. Right. So it's complicated. I like to say it's complexicated. It's complex and it's complicated.
It's a Joeyism.
It's like it's almost like dramatically.
Yeah, dramatically complexicated.
That's awesome.
So I'll just leave that there, and you can take with it what you want. I mean, if you can prove me wrong, if you can tell me that, we had all that stuff before 1947, and you can prove it, then I'll listen to you. But as far as I know, since 1947, we have reverse engineered all of that technology, and we have technology now. I had one guy tell me one night, he said, Tim, if you knew how advanced we are, we have technology that we can't even release for another 30 years. It just would blow everybody's mind. Yeah. We can't do it. We have to slowly release this information because it's just too much for the public to have. Do you know our iPhones are like 17 times more powerful than what it took the Apollo to go around the moon? Mm-hmm. And it would have taken rooms and rooms and rooms and rooms and rooms of computers. Yep. And now our iPhone can not only operate the space shuttle, it could operate like a whole fleet of them. Just the power in an iPhone. So 1947, we didn't have that. We barely got to the moon like we had it. Yep. But that's why we did get to the moon, because we were given technology that assisted us in completing the moon. In fact, I just heard today there's the new Space Force. NASA's starting a new space mission. They're going to try to send man up into space again. They're going to do a test flight, and if that goes successful, they're going to try it with the first humans since the space shuttle. And the name of the mission is Apollo. That kind of blew my mind.
Kind of fitting.
I think it's Apollo 127. I think it went to 13 or 14. Yeah. But we really don't know how many missions there's been. But I thought that was interesting. But no, I think space is our next frontier as far as war, as far as technology, as far as maybe even going out and
cohabitating another planet,
populating other planets.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's.
Well, I think at this point in our lives and how far, like you said, how far we've come in technology, I think it's kind of naive to think that we're the only beings around.
It's not about God anymore. Everyone wants to bring the God into it. It's not about God. You know, it's not going to screw up your religion if you admit that aliens are probably true. It's not going to. All it's going to do is confirm a lot of biblical text. Mm-hmm. You know. Angels didn't really have wings. They drew them with wings because they ascended and descended, and they don't know. They'd have to have wings in order to ascend and descend.
To fly, right?
You know, so the natives, the Navajos, and Mayans. I mean, as far back as the Anunnaki, the first civilization, recorded civilization on Earth. And I have my theories about it. I've heard
they were giants.
They were large, but there's a very precious commodity on Earth. It's called gold and uranium. And the aliens discovered an abundance amount of it. So they came down here and bred hybrids to slave and to mine the gold. And there's a lot of stories that have happened in between then and now. I mean, it gets complexicated. And a lot of people don't want to believe that because it ruins their structure, their religious structure, because it's not necessarily contradicting. It's just contradicting from what we've been taught. You know what I'm saying? Right. If you want to go look at this information, you can find it. But it's the regular person that just goes to church on Sunday and says, this is what God is. There is no other life. And this is how I'm going to believe the rest of my life. And they're set on that. And that's fine. But there's a lot more. There's so much more. And I didn't know that until I went looking for it. Since I've been looking for it, I have found it. I have found people that have been abducted. I have talked to people all over the world. I've been to 19 countries. I've talked to people everywhere, and they all have very, very similar stories. And they all have similar technology. It's just crazy. I mean, and like you said, we'd be naive to think we didn't do it. I'm glad the government put a a hold on it and a box on it, and they've controlled it, because I don't think that real man was prepared for it.
Right.
Like the everyday man was prepared for it. So in that aspect, I'm glad that I used to want to convince everybody in the world there's UFOs, there's aliens, I tried to tell everybody after my experience. Now, I don't think they need to know. I think what they don't know is going to be better for them, because like I said, we would lose structure, order. It would cause a little bit of chaos. But then our millennials say that's, oh yeah, okay, yeah, alien landed on the, so what? what was his name? The older generation's not prepared for that.
So what happens that day when they do finally come and present themselves, and are we going to be prepared for it?
Not all of us. No. There's going to be very many religious communities that aren't prepared for it. There are going to be a lot of people that it's going to be like when Donald Trump showed up. It's going to piss a lot of people off, scare a lot of people, and then a lot of people are going to be happy and excited and can't wait. It's going to be that kind of changing until we have exposed more of this information out to the public to where they're ready for it. It's going to be very shocking and very confusing, and I almost don't want to see it. I'm 55 years old, and I kind of don't want to see. I don't know that it's going to be a good thing. It could be wonderful, and we could cure cancer and have no more wars and no sickness. I mean, or we could destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
We could turn into every country would turn into a civil war, and we'd be killing each other, and there would be no structure of government or order. So it's a scary thing to think about. I think we're closer now than we were 20 years ago. I still don't think we're ready for it. I think when we are ready for it, I think it's just going to be a Fox News update one day, and you're going to see it. And nobody's going to be running for shelters and cover, and I think everybody's going to be prepared for it.
Right.
I mean, look at me. It screwed my life up. But do that to everybody at once. It's going to be a rough day.
Yeah.
If everybody on this planet experienced what I experienced in that one day, there's going to be a little confusion and a whole lot of panic, excitement. I don't know that I'll be alive to see it. I hope I am, but it'll be very interesting. But I don't think it's that far away. I mean, as far as 1947 to now, I think it's going to happen sooner than later.
You're talking about
exposure,
them showing up, or
coming out. The UFO landing on the White House lawn, and it's on Fox News, and we do an interview with the gray,
right,
or the green, or the blue, whichever it happens to be. The grays. All right, I'm going to tell you something like this. This is a really cool story.
Is this something we're supposed to know?
No, this is something you do know. You just did not know you did.
So the Men in Black aren't going to show up for knowing this?
No, check this out. Okay. Check this out. I'm going to blow your mind. Blow your mind. What happens today if a 7-year-old girl in Kentucky goes missing?
You don't hear about it.
You kind of do. It's on Fox News, it's on Amber Alert. Everyone's phones go off. Let's say we're here in Phoenix, and there was a Chevy with a license plate of 84 blah 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 blah.
I would say, in Phoenix you would hear about it.
All right, so all right. We'll try Phoenix. But it's like that little girl that went missing, John Benet Ramsey. I mean, the whole world knew that, right?
World news,
the whole world knew it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to blow your mind. When you were a little kid and you're eating your cereal, you poured milk on your cereal, didn't you?
Right.
What was on your cereal carton?
Lost kids.
Missing children.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't happen anymore because the Greys are no longer allowed to abduct people. That we set an agreement when we got CC and we became allies with them, and they became our allies, and we told the Greys, abduction is off. No more. No more, no more, no more. Guess what happened after we told them no more abductions? Your milk carton came out with a cow instead of children. Now, hold on. Guess what started missing after that? Guess what started disappearing after the children?
Cows.
Cattle. They said they could only use animals to do their experiments. And that was a treaty we had. And they said absolutely no more humans, because several abductees have gone aboard these ships and seen many, many body parts in these ships, like in big containers. And because of the relationship we formed with CC's specific race, and I know where they come from, one of the moons on Sirius. There's Sirius A and Sirius B, and there are many, many star systems out there that have different species of aliens, and they've all come down at one point and given us information. But these particular ones come from Sirius B, which is a moon off Sirius. And call me crazy, but I know that for a reason. I know that for reasons I can't talk about.
You've done the research?
Yeah, I've done the research. All right, so then cattle. All right, children stopped missing. And we told them, no more humans. That's it. No more. And we set our foot down. And the species of CZ, they backed us up because now they were our new military. They were the only ones that could fight the Greys, because we couldn't fight the Greys before. The Greys came down and did what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted. Travis Walton, a real good friend of mine. I've sat down with him many times up in Hero Regard from Fire in the Sky. Mm-hmm. And that was an extreme case of what the Greys are doing now compared to what they did then. Back then, every morning you poured a bowl of milk. There was a different child. If you get to the store and you look at all the milk cartons, every milk carton had a different
child. Yeah.
Right. Why doesn't that happen now? Because they've been told no more human abductions. And shortly after, that's when all cattle started going. And that's something that Linda Moulton Howe has really investigated. Mm-hmm. You can look up Linda Moulton Howe. You look at the research she's done on cattle mutilations. It's just incredible how they're found in the field with laser openings. Their tongues are gone. Their organs are gone. There's no blood around the cattle. It's amazing.
Well, what was the big story? Was it Skull Valley? Was it? What was the name of it? Were all 3,000 cattle or something all mutilated out in the field?
Yeah, at one time. They just had that again over. I just saw a thing on it, like they were reindeer. They were in reindeer. They were like 1,000 reindeer. They all died spontaneously, and they were all bedded with no blood and everything. This just happened not recently, within the last few years. But yeah, we don't know about that either. But you're pretty much safe to walk down the street and not get abducted by a Grey right now. You will still see them because they're still dirty. They still come down and mess with us when they're not supposed to. They just don't do it at the extent they used to because they've been told not to. But they're still messing with us. They have limits on what they can do. So yeah, you will still see the Greys. You will probably start seeing the blues and the greens more because they want to do as much research and development as the Greys have done, but we're going to do it as an ally. So it's not going to be quite as a frightening experience like Travis Walton. Right. They're going to grab you and probe you and stick things in your eyes and everything, and then drop you back down on the ground naked. Our aliens now aren't going to do that. Do you know about hybrids? Human hybrids, alien hybrids?
I don't.
Okay, we'll get into that.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
We'll get into that another time.
You keep opening these cans.
I got a lot of cans.
I say he's kind of followed my outline here without even looking at it. So he's done pretty good. The only thing he hasn't covered is the Phoenix Lights.
I know a little about that. I'm not so sure that's not ours. Do you know what the SB-43, the new ship that we have, the triangle
I
ship?
don't know.
All right, I better not talk about that then. I would venture to say that's probably ours. Given to us by them, but we've reverse engineered, we've created, and we do that. We can do that now. We can have those types of ships in the sky now. I know we can. And like I said, we've got technology that we cannot be, they can't reveal for another 30 to 50 years. It would just blow your mind. They have teletransport. You can teletransport, and you can, like Star Wars, beam me up. You can break down all the atoms here and send them here and put them all back together. All of that supposedly is all happening now, but it's just, we're not ready to use that technology, and the world's not ready for it. But there's many, many, many stories of it, and time travel.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. It's opened up my world to a whole lot more than it was right before I saw this UFO. And I don't know why I saw it. I don't know why God picked me. Not to confuse me. I'm not going to go out and preach it and try to save the world and change the world that, oh, aliens are real. That's not why it happened. I'm not sure why it happened, but it happened, and it's hard to deal with. There are many, many, many nights where just, some nights I'm scared. Some nights I think I'm crazy, because if it weren't for the evidence, the actual confirmation and the evidence of the sighting, I wouldn't believe it either. If I heard someone tell me the story without seeing the evidence and hearing that, I don't know that I would have believed it back then. Today I would.
Right.
But I don't know what the purpose is for me having that experience. I don't know why it was me. Like, the people that have been a bit like Travis, he doesn't know why, but I guarantee you, Travis's incident is for a reason. It may not be something that we all see at once, but there's a reason that happened. There's a reason he went forward and told his story. And there's a reason people think he's crazy. There's a reason people believe him, and there's a reason people don't. But it had to happen. I don't know. That's how I let it go. It had to happen.
Right.
It had to happen to someone. And I think, it happened to a person that's pretty credible. I don't think it would happen to, some homeless guy sitting. I'm sure it has. I'm sure homeless people have seen many, many, many things. But as far as all of the information, as far as all the transcripts and the verifications from NORAD and Canon and all that stuff, why it's not headline news, I don't know. And it never was. And I was scared to talk about it that way. But if one of us had gone to the media that night and told it, it would have been on CNN.
Right. For sure.
There would have been several news channels contacting. Well, A&E and Hard Copy, they asked me, and I said no. But I'm talking like media. Nobody approached me because I don't think they were aware of it. But if they had been aware of it, if I'd gone public at that time, it would have been CNN the next day, or they would have locked me up in a crazy house.
Right.
So looking back, I'm glad it happened. For years, I hated it that it happened. I was very angry. Oh, why me? Why did I have to see that? Because I had to fight with myself to come to, term with my faculties.
Right.
Right. Like, come on. And there's so much evidence that it has convinced me, because I would have never believed it had there not been all of the confirmation and evidence. It was that just unreal.
Have you experienced anything since that experience?
Not a thing. I've seen a few things in the sky, but actually, I don't think I'm allowed to see anything else. And I don't know why I say that, but I just don't think I will ever, ever, ever see anything like that again, or experience anything like that again. And it's almost because It's almost for protection. I think, I like I said, I don't know if I was supposed to see it or was supposed to see it, but I don't think that's going to happen to me again. Like abductees can be abducted over and 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 over. And that's very strange. This particular case, I don't believe this will happen to me again. If it did, it won't affect me like it did. But I think they're trying so hard to keep a lid on it now. I think somebody was sloppy that night. I think it got exposed and it shouldn't have.
Right.
Because for that many people to see that on radar and track it and see it, that was just too weird. Because that doesn't happen now.
Right.
At all. So I don't know. I can't explain it. Can't figure out why I saw it. But you or I mean, we all have stories. I mean, I hear people tell stories all the time, but not like this. This is the most confirmed, legitimate, backed up sighting to date, because it's been confirmed by more than one government, one. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's got multiple confirmation sources that are very, very high. And that just doesn't happen that often. I mean, I haven't seen a story like that. Not that I could recall.
Right.
That was eventually seen by NORAD and Canon and tracked. And I don't think that's ever happened before. I could be wrong. I'd like to know the story if it did. That's pretty cool.
Right.
But it's been hard to talk about it. But, like we said, it's been, I don't know how many years it's been. I don't think I'm in any danger anymore. I don't think I'm telling anybody anything they don't know.
Right. That hasn't been out there.
That hasn't been out there.
Right. Right.
I'm not spilling my guts. I'm not leaking sensitive information.
Right.
But not many people want to do the interviews. And I do. Now I know why. I do not blame them. After that MUFON experience, that just kind of like shut me up real quick.
Right.
Because I don't care if people believe me. I care about the people that don't believe me. I'm more afraid of the people that don't believe me. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not worth. There's no good outcome. Being quiet doesn't hurt me.
Right.
Talking about it could. And then when Eugene died, I'm like, well, I don't even tell the story anymore. I just rarely ever tell that story again, because that just freaked us out so bad. But,
well, Tim, we're really thankful that you shared it with us.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it does good to get it off, and talk about it to people that may give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Most people I tell, they're like, they think I'm telling a fairy tale. And well, yeah, what's your next story? But it's hard to find people that have the intellect to even consider it. And that makes me feel good when I find people that can do that.
Right.
I don't feel like, most of the time I feel like I'm just going to be made fun of, but I think finally now people are starting to understand enough to where they're like, wow, man, I can believe your story, and I'm not a cuckoo, and it feels good to tell the story when you believe people are believing you.
Right. Right.
When they're not believing you, you just shut up at about halfway through.
You can tell.
Oh,
you can tell.
You can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. Well, you gave me goosebumps by telling the story.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. So
it was incredible. It was so incredible. I encourage everyone to go look up America West Case 564 and just watch the documentary on it. You can read about it. You can read the transcripts. You can watch the video on it. It's got every word between the captain and Albuquerque Control and Canon and NORAD. Everything is there in writing, and you can hear it. And to hear it is just amazing. I mean, telling the story is fun, but to listen as it was happening and listen to the people responding is just mind blowing.
Yeah, we'll put links to the YouTube video and all that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this has been The Truth About Beer and
UFOs.
UFOs.
1.1?
1.1.
1.1.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
001.
As far as I know. Well, till next time, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes, we had someone call here earlier about a pilot spotting an unidentified flying object.
Yep, that's us.
Okay, well, hey, we're tracking a search-only track kind of where that might have happened.
Okay, can you give me a radio and
Okay, off of Holloman, it is 038 for 283.
283, huh?
I mean, it's about 10 degrees off of what you gave me before and about 80 miles off. Because you gave me 030 for about 200. It's tracking.
Holloman, huh?
It's tracking about 390 knots. We've been tracking it for about 3-4 minutes now. I mean, to be going that fast, it's got to be up kind of high.
And we got no code on it, huh?
Nope, it's search only.
Give me that 038 at 2 what?
Okay, let me do it again. Off of Holloman, 037 for 280. Basically 035 for 280.
Look up there and see anything.
Okay, then. Okay.
You are wondering where to find the Truth About Beer and merchandise? You've come to the right place. BS Designs has all the merch you've been looking for, from t-shirts and koozies to the very collectible The Truth About Beer and themed gnomes. Visit BS Designs today.
If you're looking to fill up your man cave, she shed, or just looking to decorate or redecorate your house, please visit our good friends at Boomer's Department Stores. And while you're there, be sure to check out their blog page.
Whether you're an aspiring paranormal enthusiast or a seasoned professional, or perhaps you're just looking to add to your equipment inventory, look no further than Ghost Hunters Outlet. They have all your equipment needs. For a limited time, mention the word beer in the promotional code for additional savings. And be sure to watch The Truth About Beer and on YouTube.
Welcome to The Truth About Beer.